G'day, I'm Paul. Jeep has just taken the wraps off the Grand Wagoneer concept, and my word is that this looks very much like the final product. Today I'm going to take you through 5 cool things about the Grand Wagoneer, but before we get started, I will run you through an overview of what exactly this all means. Now, what is the Grand Wagoneer? If you are like some of the Australian viewers that are watching this and have never heard of this before, think Breaking Bad. It was the car that Skylar drove around in, the wood paneling on the side. It is the bee's knees of Jeep products. The Wagoneer brand name will become part of a portfolio of vehicles for Jeep, and it will use the Grand Wagoneer concept here as something that they're going to launch it all with. There will be likely a smaller version called the Wagoneer coming as well. The platform of this car is going to be shared with the Ram 1500, but it won't ride like the pickup truck that it's based on. This car will have independent front and rear suspension, but still be massively capable off-road, which is what Jeeps are all about. Now, let's talk about the delays here. So it was meant to be released in 2013, but series of delays and postponements meant that it was pushed back to 2019. There were then further delays which pushed it back to 2020, then COVID struck, and instead of being released this year, we're only seeing the concept right now, and production won't start until next year at the earliest. And finally, it'll be built in Detroit, Michigan, alongside the Ram 1500 that it shares a platform with. Now, let's get stuck into the 5 cool things about the new Grand Wagoneer. First up, UConnect 5. UConnect is, of course, the infotainment system that's used across a number of FCA cars, and UConnect 5 is the latest iteration of this. It's based on an Android operating system, and it was revealed earlier this year in 2020. It contains 6 gigabytes of internal storage, and it can then be further expanded with flash storage up to 64 gigabytes. It has 5 times more processing power than the last generation, and I mean, if you've used the last generation, they're actually pretty quick, so I'm excited to see what extra elements this brings to that UConnect system. Another cool feature is UConnect 5 can support up to 4 additional displays and display 15 million pixels. To put that into context, that is a TI-83 graphics calculator. It'll do 6,000 pixels, and the capability of UConnect 5 is double that of a 4K television, and that is all with a car's infotainment system. In addition to that, it brings over-the-air updates for extra features and security updates, and it will also do wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, moving on to the next cool feature, LEDs. Car manufacturers love flexing big time when it comes to LEDs. Audi's LED game is really strong, but I think Jeep has gone next level here with LEDs. I'm looking at pictures of the front of the Wagoneer. You can see the grille there if you look closely. It's got that obsidian black color to it, and Jeep has that traditional 7 slat grille, but in between the slats on the grille are individual banks of LEDs, and then above that you have an LED strip that lights up across the entire grille. And then Wagoneer is extruded, it sticks out, and that is backlit as well. So at night time, this car is really going to stand out. Now take a closer look at the headlights. You get bi-LED headlights, but the bi-LED headlight module sits within real teak wood. So you see that around the frame there, and I think that looks really cool. If you go around to the rear of the car, more LED there with a strip that runs along the back of the car, and even more of that extruded Grand Wagoneer lettering. Really is quite a strong presence out on the road. Now moving on to the next cool feature, the roof. So it is just a standard panoramic roof. It looks pretty cool. You see that in most cars today, but Jeep has buried an Easter egg in there because the roof features a mapped outline of Detroit. Detroit is, of course, where they're building this alongside the Ram 1500. So it's a bit of a homage to where the car is created and where it all starts. And it'll be cool when this is seen in other places around the world that you look up and you'll be able to see that map of Detroit. Now, our friends over at Autoblog have even enhanced that image and found the factory where it's going to be built. So there is a fair bit of detail there, and I'll be keen to see whether this translates from the concept into the production car. Okay, moving on to the next cool feature, and that is the interior. I don't know, the outside I don't love, and styling is entirely subjective. So you may love the outside, but I don't know, I just think it looks a bit gaudy, but the inside is sensational. It just looks really high-end luxury, and I think that's what they're trying to strike here with Grand Wagoneer. It needs to be high-end and premium. Just have a look at that. It looks fantastic. Even that 2-pillar steering wheel, you really don't see that very often, and I think it just adds that element of luxury. You've got that suede headliner. You have recycled materials used throughout the cabin, but have a look on the passenger side. There is a screen built into the dashboard. Now, this isn't the first car to feature this. We have seen this previously on the Porsche Taycan, and I had a chance to play with it in the Taycan, and I don't know, it is kind of a pointless feature, but I just love the fact that they've integrated an LCD display there. And this is part of what I mentioned earlier with UConnect 5. This is one of those 4 screens they're able to add to the rest of the car. So in addition to that 10.25-inch screen, you also get 10.1-inch screens in the back seat. There's also a screen beneath the infotainment screen in the front seat, and then you get an additional screen in the second row for controlling your heating and cooling. So this is a really nicely presented interior. And a couple of other cool things that have come up here. So 3D wood inlays are used throughout the cabin, but if you have a look at that dashboard beneath the screen on the passenger side, the Grand Wagoneer insignia is inscribed in raw aluminium directly into the wood. So it's this kind of stuff that's going to sell this car, because that isn't very easy to do. A couple more points I want to make here about the interior. The Grand Wagoneer is a 7-seater, but as you can see here in the concept, it's kind of like a 6-seat business layout. So in the second row there, you've got that divider, which means you don't need to be too close to your passengers, and those seats are individually controlled in terms of heating and cooling. So that looks like a pretty decent setup. Okay, finally, plug-in hybrid. We do know that the Grand Wagoneer is going to come in petrol, probably a V6, a V8, the standard raft of engines you expect in these types of cars. But Jeep has said that it will be fitting a plug-in hybrid drivetrain. Now, we do know that the 4xe Wrangler, which is the new plug-in hybrid version of the Wrangler, uses a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine mated to an electric drivetrain. But I don't think they'll be fitting that to the Grand Wagoneer. It's too big of a car to support a drivetrain like that. So they'll probably fit a V6 or a V8 as standard, with the plug-in hybrid mated to probably a V6 petrol engine. And that'll mean that it has, according to rumors on the internet, a driving range of around 30 miles or about 50 kilometers on electric power alone. And then you'll be able to charge that at home using a standard power plug as well. And the way this works is that it can use both of those modes of transport, so the internal combustion engine and the electric motor, or it can just drive on electric power alone. So it'll be interesting to see how this fits into the grand scheme. It forms part of a wider remit that Jeep has to electrify all of the vehicles in its range, and this is just the next one that's going to be electrified as part of that project. So there it is, your first look at the Jeep Grand Wagoneer concept that's probably going to be exactly what the production car looks like when it finally does arrive next year and they start building it. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Is it a bit sort of ugly? Do you like the look of it? And what do you think of the interior? I think that's where they've really kicked some massive goals. Let me know in the comments section below. While you're at it, check out some of the other videos on our channel. We've got some drag races, other news stories, and plenty of car reviews as well. If you haven't done so already, hit like on this video if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, press subscribe, and also hit the bell icon as well so you can find out every single time we publish something new. But until next time, take it easy.